Hello class, Mr. Schweitzer here to teach you a little bit more about geologic history, or pretty much how old things are. So the thing we're going to be focusing on today is the law of superposition. Sounds complex, but it literally just means older rocks are below younger rocks. So the deeper you go down into Earth, the older the rocks will be, for the most part. This law usually works as long as we don't have an igneous intrusion, but that'll fill in a little later because we gotta go over that. But anyway, so this is the best way to understand it. Imagine you get home after school, you take a shower, you take your clothes from that day, you put them in the laundry. After that, the next day you come home, same thing, you take your clothes, you put them in the laundry. And then again, Wednesday, you take your clothes, put them in the laundry. Thursday, you take your clothes, put them in the laundry. And then on Thursday, you happen to have a sock that you throw in there that actually falls to the bottom, but also, makes its way to the top. It's a long sock that goes from the bottom to the top. And then Friday, finally, you put your last thing of clothes on. So the law of superposition pretty much states that the oldest rock is on the bottom, or the oldest clothes are on the bottom in this case, and the youngest is on the top. The one exception to that is this sock, right? Because it went on Thursday, but notice that the Friday rock, the younger rock, is above this sock here. So oldest layer, second oldest, third oldest, fourth oldest, and then we've got our second to youngest, and then finally our youngest there, okay? So the rule is pretty much if it's underneath everything, it's the oldest, and if it's whatever a layer is on top of, that would be our youngest. So let's apply this to a regions question. So if you check out this question, this cross section below shows 4 rock units, A, B, C, and D. They're all highlighted there, D, C, B, A. Simply asking which layer is the youngest. Well, if you think back to this, the most recent one we put in there was this layer, which is on the top. So that means our top layer should be the youngest, which it is. Notice B here. B is an igneous intrusion. So B is going to be younger than C and D because it lays over it, okay? So if they were to ask you the oldest rock, it would go D, and then one younger would be C, after that would be B, and the youngest would be A. So the youngest is going to be A here. So here again, if you check this out, letter L is representing an igneous intrusion. So letter L is on top of everything else, just like how our sock is laying over everything else. So that means L is going to be younger than M, K, J, I, and H. But notice that L is underneath this squiggly letter G there. So, simply asking, which rock was formed most recently? Well, we know the oldest rocks are going to be on the bottom, and the youngest rocks are going to be on the top. So, obviously, this one is going to be A, because it is above all the other ones. Now, a trickier question would be if they ask you which rock is the oldest. If you're looking at the bottom, L is the lowest one, but notice that it's laying on top of layers M, K, J, I, and H. So L is actually going to be younger than all of these layers at the bottom here because it is placed over it. Just like our sock here is placed over all these other older layers. Layer L is placed over all the other layers. So if they ask you what the oldest rock would be, it would be M because it is the lowest one and it is underneath this layer L, which has been placed over it, okay? So that is correlating the ages. Next part is going to be correlating different outcrops. So an outcrop is just a layer of rocks found from one spot, and another outcrop would be a total different spot. So you can imagine like outcrop from Japan, outcrop from California, outcrop from New York. So what I have here are these different layers, and they're cut out. All I'm looking for when I'm trying to figure out which rock is the oldest, which rock is the youngest, is I'm going to look for rocks that appear the same or may have the same fossils. So just by looking at outcrop 1 and 3, I can see that I can pair up these layers of limestone with these layers of sandstone. And now when I look at this layer, I'm going to look for other layers that I can correlate with. I see a little bit of these line rocks, so I'm just going to correlate it like this. And now we can see, oh wow, they've got the two same fossils in it, so that makes it easier. The youngest rock is going to be this conglomerate, and the oldest rock is going to be this, what is it, siltstone. So, what they give you is this here. So you have to understand, you can't cut it out during the reading exam, so you have to understand that this layer here pairs with this layer up here. And then this layer here pairs with this layer, this layer over here, right? So the oldest layer is going to be the one underneath all the other ones, which is going to be this layer right here. So which layer is the oldest? It's going to be the siltstone and outcrop 2. All right? This is a little harder, a little more complicated than the last part. Here's another question. Which rock layer is going to be the youngest? That's going to be the one that's the highest. First off, I'm going to look at the most obvious thing that I see on here. I see this squiggly unconformity. Unconformity just means that there was uplift and erosion. So I'm going to correlate these two lines together here. And you can also see that the tan limestone is below that as well, and so is the red sandstone is below that. So it definitely correlates, including the green shale. And then I'm going to look over at this layer here. I see that we have a relationship between these two right here, right? Because we've got the green shale and the conglomerate, green shale conglomerate, and we have, brown siltstone above it, brown siltstone above it. So that makes sense. So which rock layer is going to be the youngest? Imagine I take this and I line it up with this one, and then I take this and line it up with this one. That's going to put E way above all the other ones, right? So which rock is going to be the youngest? It's going to be glacial soil containing fossil E in column 3, because that one's going to be the highest. If it asks you the oldest, it'd be this gray limestone here, because that's the one that's going to be beneath everyone else.